A cheating husband was almost caught by his wife. That husband was Jupiter. He had forced himself upon a beautiful young woman named Io. Io was innocent, yet she was the one who was degraded and humiliated. When Jupiter's jealous wife Juno almost found out, Jupiter turned Io into a cow to hide his infidelity. A human being was reduced to an animal. Io lost her human form, her voice, her freedom, and her place in society. And Juno stayed suspicious and kept watching and persecuting her. The innocent girl wandered across the world suffering terribly, until she finally reached the banks of Egypt's great river, the Nile. There, exhausted and desperate, she prayed for help, and her prayers were answered. Her humiliation was reversed. She was restored to human form and raised in glory. In Ovid's Metamorphoses, Io was then identified with the Egyptian goddess Isis. Her story followed a pattern of falling, suffering, being restored, and finally reaching glory. Centuries later, Apuleius told a similar story in The Golden Ass. Lucius was turned into a donkey, but unlike Io, he was not innocent. His downfall came from his own recklessness, foolish curiosity, and lack of self-control. Io suffered despite her innocence. Lucius suffered because of his own mistakes. Yet both experienced the same degradation, a human consciousness trapped inside an animal body. And the goddess who rescued Lucius was Isis. Symbolically, the innocent sufferer who had once known animal humiliation now delivered the guilty sufferer from a similar condition. Together, these stories form a distant but powerful analogy with Jesus Christ. Christ was innocent, yet he descended from divine glory into human suffering, humiliation, and death. Then came resurrection, ascension, and glory, and through that victory, he became the deliverer of those who suffer under the consequences of sin. Io descends from woman to animal and is restored as Isis. Lucius descends into animality through his own fault and is restored by Isis. Christ descends into suffering without guilt, rises in glory, and restores the guilty. Finally, there is one more symbol to consider. Lucius becomes a donkey because he is governed by his passions. But Jesus enters Jerusalem riding a donkey. Lucius is mastered by the beast. Christ masters the beast. Jesus doesn't destroy human nature, instincts, or passion. He brings them under divine authority and directs them toward the fulfillment of God's will and ultimately towards salvation. So the pattern is clear. The guilty one becomes degraded. The innocent one descends and experiences suffering similar to that of the guilty, despised and rejected by mankind. A man of suffering and familiar with pain. After passing through tribulation, he rises in glory and reveals his compassionate power to restore others.